Hello friends, Namaste, very good evening from Petrify. You see the markets are over. It's about 5:30 in the evening. The markets were choppy. Of course, for a reason, it was a weekly closing. This video, I wanted to do it because I wanted to share a story, an ancient story. And this video is on Deepavali special. So the markets are closed tomorrow, but they are open for 1 hour for the Muhurat trading. So this video is for Diwali special, and I would like to share an ancient story about the goddess of wealth, Lakshmi, the goddess of wealth, and also Saraswati, the goddess of knowledge. And let me share that through a presentation. You see, this story is about these two goddesses, and they fought with each other. Like there are normal fights in a family, there are fights between brothers, between friends, and there are fights in a corporate for even sometimes for very petty things. A small cabin, small perk, big cabin, big perks. So in a similar situation, there was a fight between these two goddesses. So I wanted to share with you this ancient story, why there was this fight, what was the reason for this fight, and then Vishnu, how he handled this situation and how he resolved the conflict between goddess Lakshmi and goddess Saraswati. That is the goddess of wealth, money, and the goddess of knowledge. So, but before that, before sharing the story, let me make a small background. You know, we all are living in this cosmos, in this, you call it whatever, the whole existence, which the scientists say that it has come as a big bang, okay? It has come from nothing and then expanding and accelerating, and tomorrow maybe there could be a death to this space-time object called the cosmos. So whatever the stuff that we are living in and doing our things, now this, if you see from the God side, this is God incorporates. So this is a divine organization from the God side, if you see it. So that is how this organization has come into being, this whole cosmos. So Brahma is the creator of this cosmos. Don't get confused between these two things, Brahma and Brahman. Brahma is that four-headed deity, the deity who has got 4 heads and 4 hands, depicted in the Hindu mythology. And those 4 heads, 4 hands represent a 4-dimensional universe, what the scientists are calling our existence, our space-time object, this universe is a 4-dimensional space-time object. So the 3 are the spatial dimensions, and 4th is the time dimension. In the same way, Brahma is depicted with 4 heads, the one who has created, the one who is the creator behind all this. Okay, so that is how this divine organization has come into being, and in that we have all these organizations, our families, our corporates, our governments, the social organizations, the profit organizations, the non-profit organizations. So these all are subsets in that divine organization, right? And then what Brahma did, so this was the first god. He created this cosmos. So he created this first value, the first principle, and then he handed over this to Vishnu. The role of Vishnu comes when, where, and for what purpose? the role of Vishnu is to sustain that value, right? Whatever the value that is created, it can be creating a product, it can be creating a service, it can be creating a solution. So typically in an organization, let's say it's a manufacturing organization, you have people in the production, they create products. Maybe in an IT organization, you have people who create solutions, they create services, they create processes. So they all, the people who create products, nurture product, are the people who are behind that product. They are like Brahma. So they create that product, right? And there could be an entrepreneur. He creates the entire organization itself. He creates that idea, a value called business, right? And then Brahma hands over this organization. He further enhances the created value and gives it to Vishnu. And what is there in the portfolio of Vishnu, what is there in the function of Vishnu, is sustaining that value. How long that value can sustain. See, for instance, all our products, how long they can sustain, because take, for example, typewriter doesn't exist because the computers have come. In the same way, you can see many products have died and new products come into being, right? So Vishnu's function is to infuse value in that created value, right? So he sustains that value for a period of time, right? And then comes a third God, third principle. And these are three basic principles when it comes to creating anything, right? So Shiva comes in, and what is there in the portfolio of Shiva, in the function of Shiva, is transforming that value, right? So the product moves from creation, then it moves and it sustains there, stays there for some time, and then it dies out. It dies down. The value diminishes. Then what? Either a new product has to come in, or the same product has to be transformed so that value is infused. So in engineering parlance, what they call value engineering. So they add value to that product so that it sustains for a longer period of time. You'll be surprised to know there is a technocrat by the name Ray Kurzweil. Ray Kurzweil has got 19 plus PhDs to his credit. You'll be surprised to know. And then he's a technocrat and is a consultant to many organizations, but he's towards this information technology side. And what is the greatness of this person? Whatever the predictions that he made into the information technology space, more than 80% of his predictions have come true. Now, that doesn't mean that 20% of his predictions have gone wrong. No, the timing is different. They have not come true today, but they may come true in the future. Now, what is the genius of this person? What is the greatness of this person? Many bigger organizations hired him. Organizations like Google, Microsoft, Oracle, Intel, many technologically advanced, these technological giants, they hire him to see whatever the products, whatever the values that they have created, whatever the framework, whatever the ecosystem, whatever the product, the solution, will it stay or sustain? If it stays, how long it will sustain? Whether it will work or it will not work. And this guy goes into this aspect of the value creation aspect of this product or solution, how long it will stay, how long it will sustain, right? And you know what? Let's say if we take the example of Intel, it works on a principle called Moore's law. And what does that mean? You know, the Intel chip, the governing principle behind Intel chip is the Moore's law. What does that law says that every 6 months, the power of that chip will be doubled, and the value, the size of that chip will become half. So it will become lighter and lighter and lighter when it comes to its physical geometry, but the power that chip carries will be doubled. And Ray Kurzweil has simulated this, that how long this can go, how long this Moore's law can go ahead into the future. And his simulation says by 2036, the value of one chip will be equivalent to 1 cent. Right? So Moore's law also has a dead end. Then what is a question? So these kinds of questions are there in our minds. You know, in our Hindu culture, there is something called Jyotishi Shastra, Jyotishi Vidya. I mean, the knowledge, you know, what that knowledge does is that, you know, this expert, this guy, the Jyotishi, he looks into our palm, your hand, and he sees the lines on your hand and predict your future, right? This is that science. You know, in the past, kings used to hire these people. When a newborn baby comes into being, they used to see the future of that boy, whether he'll become a king or not, what he'll become, like that. So how his future will be, how long he will live, that kind of a science, right? But you know what? If you go into the very root of this science, Jyotisha, this Jyotisha word, if you see into the etymology and also the root of this word is made up of two Sanskrit words. One word is Jyoti and the other word is Isha. And if you go into the meaning of this, Jyoti means, now we are talking about Diwali. So it is that lamp, that small lamp, that is you and me, right? Ourself, our being, it is a small lamp. And Isha means the supreme light, the supreme being, right? So what Jyotisha, what is the purpose of Jyotisha? That knowledge, the purpose of Jyotisha is to see the potentiality in you and me. What is the probability? What is the potentiality of this small light merging into the divine light? When it comes to the cosmos, what the scientists are saying, that it has come out of nothing and then it is expanding and accelerating, and maybe tomorrow it will dissolve into nothing. It has come from nothing and dissolve into nothing, and then maybe a new cosmos comes into being, right? Then Brahma comes into the picture, then he creates another cosmic organization, right? Could be. So these are all just theories, right? So taking that story forward, I'm just making this background so that Jyotisha Shastra is to see the probability and possibility of every human being, how that small light, that small self can become that infinite self, can become that bigger self, right? So how Jyoti can merge into Isha is that knowledge. So this background is that this cosmic organization and these three custodians. So these three people, these three gods are three custodians of the cosmic organization. Now this is the underlying thing for everything that comes after, right? So three custodians of transformation, basically. Now, coming to this story, which I wanted to share, then there are these two values, the further two values. The value called Lakshmi, which is goddess Lakshmi, and the value called Saraswati, that is goddess Saraswati. I'm taking these images just from Wikipedia, so the credit goes to them for using the images. So Lakshmi is a goddess of wealth. Saraswati is a goddess of knowledge. So I wanted to share with you this story that there was a fight between them. So we'll come to that later. Now, if we just go into the root meaning of, let us say, Lakshmi, Lakshmi simply means the very goal of our life, right? So it is that laksha, that focus, that goal. Okay. Saraswati, in root, it means the pooling of energies. Okay. Initially it was the pool of waters, the pool of rivers. And then if you go into the literal meaning, if you apply it, let us say today, in the current parlance, then it applies so well for collaboration, right? So the individual people that we were working in silos, not connected with each other, into tight water compartments, one hand not talking to the other hand, right? And the conflict, but in the present day world, our geography does not matter. The technology has brought us to a level where we can work from any place in the world and still collaborate and be in sync with each other, right? So what is taking care of all that is the technology behind that, right? So in that cosmic organization, with those three custodians, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, don't get confused with Brahma, the four-headed deity, four-headed God, and Brahman, right? So Brahma, as I said, is a four-headed God, which I'm saying is this space-time object, is a four-dimensional universe, and Brahman is the spirit behind it, the one that is spread all across, the one that is filled in. It is filled everywhere and everything. It is that spirit behind. So this is the difference between Brahma and Brahman. Now coming to our businesses. All business is for creating money and management of money. Profit is the very soul of an organization. Brahma created the cosmos, and with that an eternal organization has come into being. Within that organization, he embedded two eternal values. No organization can grow and sustain without these two embedded values. Lakshmi, the goddess of wealth, and Saraswati, the goddess of knowledge. All knowledge is for money, and all money is for more knowledge. What knowledge we have? Big Bang, string theory, they are just theories. But then we have come much ahead if we compare with the past. So, all knowledge is for money, all money is for more knowledge. Money and knowledge exchange. So these two principles, these two values are somehow co-joined in such a way, separating them is impossible. And separating them is a stupidity. I'll explain to you when we go further. So Lakshmi and Saraswati are the two values which are very, very essential and important for any organization. And by the way, so Diwali, there is a special significance when it comes to wealth and when it comes to Lakshmi. So we do Lakshmi Puja. So we do the Lakshmi Puja with that thing in mind, that she is a goddess of wealth. So money, Lakshmi, and knowledge, Saraswati, and they appear to be two eternal sisters. You cannot separate them. These two cannot be separated. We'll understand the importance of their existence as we move further. All knowledge is for money and all money is for more knowledge. There are two key people in every organization, CEO and CFO. The job of the CEO is to create more and more money, and the job of the CFO is to retain and invest that money. Both require knowledge in their respective functions. See, in an organization, there could be a board and there could be a chairman. But this board and chairman, what are they doing? They're giving you vision, they're giving you mission, they must be directing us, they may be helping us. They're like a scaffolding thing. But then there are two key people when it comes to execution, and the CEO and the CFO. These are two pillars, and the execution in respective domains. In my understanding, the CEO is responsible for the top line. He's responsible for bringing in revenue. And the CFO is responsible for the bottom line, for retaining those profits, for investing those profits for higher returns, to see whether a higher shareholder value is being created or not. Otherwise, why the shareholders will invest money in any organization, in any idea for that matter, right? So this is how these two key people are driving the organization. The CEO, the Chief Executive Officer, CFO, the Chief Finance Officer. One is responsible for the top line, for the revenue, and the second one is responsible for the bottom line. Whatever the money that is created, how to invest that money for higher returns. Now that is the goal. Now there cannot be a conflict between these two people. The moment there is a conflict, see, there can be a difference of opinion. I can have a different perspective. You can have a different perspective. And this perspective can be shared, can be discussed, can be collaborated, right? But then conflict is a totally different thing. The moment there is a conflict, then it is a sure thing that the organization is moving towards doom. And probably the chairman and the board have that function to see that there are no conflicts, that there is a symphony, that there is a harmony. That means they have to understand these higher values. The value called Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, and the value called Lakshmi and Saraswati. The value called Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. The moment the idea is created, Vishnu is saying that the idea has to sustain for long. Suppose if he becomes incapable, the idea immediately moves to Shiva for transformation. Transformation can be adding a new value to that idea or product, or it can be destroying that idea altogether. So the moment that idea is destroyed, Vishnu's job is over, even Shiva's job is over, the idea is destroyed. Then what? Then again Brahma comes into the picture. A new idea has to come into being. Right? The story repeats. The story is a cycle within cycle, within cycle, within cycle. And then in that, there are these two other values. If there is no money, who will create what? Whatever that we are doing, what is propelling us? The objective for creating, the laksha, the focus, the goal for creating wealth. Why wealth? For knowledge. Why knowledge? For more wealth. Why wealth? For more knowledge. So they too are also joined in such a way. Separating them is going to be a difficult task. Now, every organization, there are phases. So this is how every business goes through these 4 phases. The very first phase, so we are talking about startups, unicorns, and we have seen the IPOs, many companies making a wonderful debut when it comes to IPOs. I don't want to take names, but we all know the stories. So the unicorn stories, the startup is that beginning stage, right? That is the first stage for any organization to kickstart to. So startup, but then startup is a survival thing. We all know there are no profits. You need somebody to invest. You need somebody to help. Again, the same thing. Somebody says, how can I create a value when I don't have a capital? That fundamental thing comes into question. That is the goddess of wealth. Okay, I have knowledge, I have skill, I can create something. So I have Saraswati, I have her blessing. But then to create that also, I need some tools. So if I'm speaking now, there are tools that I'm using. So how these two are interchangeable, these two are related values. So startup is that stage, which is a survival stage. Then we have something called break even. Now break even is a stage where, at least I'm okay, no profit, no loss. Whatever I'm investing, whatever my revenue is taking care of my costs, at least. Yeah. So it is that second stage. It is further challenging. So all these stages are challenging at their own levels. They have their own dynamics at that level. So the third stage is so from break even, I will move to making little profit, at least. Profit to save for a rainy day, save for something may happen. So what to do? So protect ourselves. So some small money goes into profits, and from profits it moves into reserves. And these reserves are there for a rainy day, for any unwanted situation in the future, or maybe for expanding the business, expanding the organization, creating new values, creating new products. And then from profit, the entrepreneur has to look further beyond profits, right? So these are the basic 4 stages that every organization goes through. So all businesses move in the above 4 phases. One has to continuously struggle and stay ahead and go beyond. This struggle is possible only through innovation and creativity. But ultimately, the value called business has to be sustainable. So Vishnu, we talked about. One has to always work out a sustainable framework. Everything, whatever that we are creating, it has to be sustainable. If it is not sustainable, it cannot work. Friend, it cannot work. No idea can work. So it has to be robust and it has to be sustainable. So the sustainable framework is innovation and creative, continuously, and continuous creation of blue oceans. Accelerating rate of return should be the only focus. We heard about decelerating rate of returns. That somehow the returns, there are some hidden forces, they bring us down. There's something called things tend to go wrong, right? And the goal of these people is to set them right so that things don't go wrong. The idea does not go wrong. So, and continuous creation of blue oceans, accelerating rate of return should be the only focus. Now, whatever the idea that we create, right? So this has to continuously go on. And this is what we have also learned in management. There's something called blue oceans and red oceans. Yeah. See, whenever a new value comes into being, new idea, new enterprise, that is considered as a blue ocean. Why? Because it is your idea. You are not copied it from anywhere. It is your innovation and your creativity, and it is unique in itself. So there is no competition. So the Michael Porter is kept away, far away. Michael Porter and his 5 forces of competition, they are a little far away. They're at a distance. So the blue ocean. Blue oceans give you highest margin. So your margins. But then slowly what happens? We all know in this competition, the blue oceans move towards red oceans. But can we move the red ocean towards the blue ocean? That's the story that we talked about. Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva. Brahma, a new idea has come into being. A new product, new solution, new service has come into being. And it is a blue ocean because there are no competitors. It's a new one. You have created it. You are not copied it. And then how long it will stay? So we talked about that story. Vishnu has to see how long it can stay and sustain. Then what happens? Then it will, the so-called blue ocean will slowly move towards the red ocean. So from Brahma, it is moving to Vishnu, and from Vishnu, it is moving towards Shiva. So it is moving towards the red ocean. Then the value called, if the value is not possible to be enhanced, then that value has to be destroyed. But look, even how new strategies are being adopted. Let's say in a competition, there is a product and it's a threat. The company sometimes buys that product to kill it so that the competition is kept away. So that idea, that new product is being bought, that new company is being bought just to kill it so that it is not a threat to the one who is buying it. So there are even these strategies. And ultimately for what? For the sustainability, for the sustainable framework, for that value to sustain for long. So competing in a red ocean is only a survival strategy. It will not help for long. One has to continuously create blue oceans to stay ahead of competition. This is where the research comes into being. What is it that all this is going on? Well, you know, data science, we have something called ML, we have something called cloud, right? We have something called new technologies coming into being. For what? The same thing. To stay ahead so that the blue ocean remains a blue ocean, that it does not move towards the red ocean. So creating blue oceans looks like an eternal leadership strategy. Now, this is the ancient story that I wanted to talk about. The story between Goddess Lakshmi and Goddess Saraswati. That the fight, that why they fight, and how Vishnu came to their rescue. Let us see this story, a small story, but helpful for us when we are working, wherever we are working, in any organization. This is applicable. This story has a life applicability, whether it is for your life or whether it is for an organization. So Brahma created the cosmic organization and handed over to Vishnu for sustenance and to Shiva for transformation. While inheriting the two values, there is Lakshmi, the goddess of wealth, and Saraswati, goddess of knowledge, these two values, while inheriting these two values started fighting with each other. So Goddess Lakshmi and Goddess Saraswati started fighting. It's a mythology story. Lakshmi started saying that she is greater than Saraswati. All this happens, right? This happens in our families, in corporation, wherever we are working. So there is a fight that I am mightier than you. He says, I am mightier than you, like that. These kind of scuffle, these kind of small fights are going on. So the fight here was Lakshmi, the goddess of wealth, was saying, I am greater than you. And Saraswati started showing that she is greater than Lakshmi. So each one was saying that she is greater than the other. Lakshmi was needed for growth and prosperity. Obviously, we talked about. So wealth is needed for growth and prosperity. But at the same time, Saraswati is also needed for knowledge and harmony. You see, let me tell you, prosperity, if it is there, and if prosperity is coming with conflict, then that prosperity is of no use. If there is a conflict and if there is a chaos, and if you are fighting wars, but there is prosperity, there is wealth, a lot of wealth is created, but there is a conflict, then for what use, that prosperity is of. That prosperity is of no use. So peace and prosperity have to go together. This is my view, right? So there was this fight. Each one of us showing. They say knowledge is ancient. Why knowledge is ancient? See, knowledge is ancient means, let me touch upon small thing here. Knowledge is like the time value of money. The past knowledge is of no use. I mean, the present knowledge is more valuable than the past knowledge. That's why we have moved to something new. But the future knowledge will be more valuable than the present knowledge. That's why innovation. That's why research. Then why new things are coming into existence. So we want to solve the problems. So in this process of solving our problems, we bring in new knowledge, we bring in new technology. So this so-called knowledge is like this time value of money. So the present knowledge is more valuable than the past knowledge, and the future knowledge is going to be more valuable than the present knowledge, right? But there is something called another knowledge. It is not called knowledge, but wisdom. That wisdom is eternal, right? It is of now. It is not concerned with past or present or future. So these two things are, these two paradigms are totally different. One is of knowledge, that I was talking about peace and prosperity. So the prosperity is coming out of some knowledge. Some knowledge means, let me explain. See, when we go into the, let us say, Rig Veda, the very first verse of Rig Veda talks about Agni. Agni means the fire god. Agni Deva. The word used there is Agni Deva. Agni Deva means the fire god. Now just imagine the life of the people before, when there was no fire at all. How they must be living. Just think. Just think of their challenges without fire. But somehow, you know, our ancients have made that fire portable. And then what? A new industry came into existence. Are you getting my point? If you go into the first verse of Rig Veda, where it is saying Agni Deva, the word used is Agni Deva. So they are even telling that Agni is again a form of God. Obviously, because that's how the civilizations have improved. A new industry has came into being because of the availability of fire. But then what about today? Today we have got these lights. Now the credit goes to Thomas Edison. Suppose if you give me an opportunity to write the Rig Veda, then I will put you know, this light also as some kind of a form of God, and I'll give you the credit to Thomas Edison, right? So compared to fire, this light is far more important. And you know, see, like for example, the Newton's laws of motions. What happened? A new industry on mechanics has come into being. Then we flourished. And after, let's say, light, if further new industry has come into being. And in the present thing, when we are talking about, let us say, quantum science, then quantum objects have come into being. We have further progressed. So like this, when we move into this science, when we start making progress in the future, we don't know what kind of knowledge we'll have in the future. So just think, all these are beyond our imaginations. So Vishnu could retain both of them. So this fight, Vishnu had to play a very diplomatic role, like the role that a chairman plays probably. or a father plays in the house, or probably a mother plays in the house, or probably an elder brother plays in the house, right? So the Vishnu could retain both of them, saying that with knowledge one can read and write. Fine, you are important. But without money, one cannot buy the tools of knowledge like books and pen required to gain that knowledge. So what he did, he could somehow strategically, diplomatically bring in this truce between them. This is just a story, but meaningful. So he brought this truce. So when there are conflicts in the organization, we have to sit across the table and discuss. So when there are conflicts in the house, we have to sit and discuss and debate and dissolve. You know, in one of the MNCs that I was working with, there was a concept called melting. So whenever there used to be some kind of difference or conflict in a department, then the department's people will go and go in a hotel, do a party, and then discuss. And the concept was called melting. Melting means all the conflicts are diffused, and then you draw the minutes of the meeting. Sorry, the minutes of the meeting, that how these conflicts have come to an end and how we are going to move forward. The same way, interdepartmental, interorganizational. Today, let us say we are only one civilization. Maybe tomorrow, if we have intergalactic civilization, then what about intergalactic relations? Probably there could be wars. How? So basically the conflict resolution system in place. So Vishnu played that role. So Vishnu could retain both of them, saying that with knowledge one can read and write, but without money one cannot buy the tools of knowledge like books and pen required to gain that knowledge. As I said, money, all money is for knowledge, and all knowledge is for more money, and all that more money is for more knowledge. So you can't separate these two values. So Lakshmi and Saraswati are going to stay forever as long as we stay. So these are two, what I call them, eternal sisters. So these two eternal sisters are going to stay for all our lives. And what we have to see is how best we can use these two values for the sustainability. So I think it has come to an end. The story ends here. So this I did it for keeping Diwali in mind. So Diya is basically that light. So we all are like small lights. And then we are subsets of that divine light, the supreme light. So finally, I can only wish. So wishing you all a happy Diwali. The wish is, let your life, let your life be filled with love, light, and laughter. That's it. Thank you so much for listening. I'll again meet with some other story. Thank you so much.